Good evening or good morning, everyone. The topic of today's webinar is an important one for Auroville, the future of Auroville's economy. But first, let's take a moment of silence to call Mother and Shankardevy present over this webinar. Thank you. As the development of Auroville is finally on the right tracks, it is essential to have a deeper look at the question of our economy. We have invited 5 panelists that will help us understand what is possible for Auroville in the near future. Our panelists are Ocean from the BCC, Chandresh, Shankardevy Torkil, and Kalia from the FAMC, Fund and Asset Management Committee. They took office mid-June 2022, and we are going to go through their work following the observation and suggestion made by the governing board in their 57th meeting in the 2nd November of 2021, a year ago, and see how it has guided their work so far. I thank you all for joining this webinar, and I also thank Rade and Vladimir, our partners of Lagras Shankardevy Integral Life Center, that are handling the technical support of this webinar. If you have questions, we will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. You can write them in the Q&A box, which is below. It's not below your screen. And we will take those questions at the end of the webinar. So now I will invite Chandresh to give a quick overview of the subgroups of FAMC. I'll show on the screen.
So good evening, everybody, those who are joining us in India, and good morning to those who are overseas. Welcome to this webinar of the Funds and Assets Management team. So I've just briefly given on the screen, you'll see the structure of the Funds and Asset Management Committee. It's a committee directly constituted by the governing board, and we closely interact with the Auroville Foundation Secretary, who is our convener. So she convenes this committee meetings. And the various subgroups of funds and assets management are listed here. So all the resources which make up Auroville have been undertaken in our work. So we start on the left-hand side with land resource management. That includes our green buffer zones, the farms, and also those which have not yet been developed. And so that is one group. Then we have the Unity Fund that basically helps us channel our fund flows from our donors, from our GOI grant channels, and then distribute them through our internal financial service channels and accounts. And we also have a subgroup under Unity Fund, which is basically takes care of the transaction between the various municipal services and individuals and the units. So that then the third one, moving onward, we have the housing service, and the housing service looks at maintains all the houses, the buildings, the house residential areas, and also facilitates allocation of housing residential properties to Aurovillians, newcomers, and maintains the things and also keeps track of these assets. Then we have the budget coordination committee that takes care of the contribution that the various income generating and units and services generate. And on the other side, they work with all the municipal services and the schools and all the residents who work on the city services area, and provide them with a recurring budget, and then coordinate with their needs of any, also work with them for giving annual work plan, and also then account for the money that is spent. Similarly, on the contribution side, they try and see what is the, how best to bring in the revenues to support the city services, and trying to be fair to allowing the units to grow. So that is one of the subgroups of FAMC we closely work with right now. Then there is the green belt development, where we have the farm service. We will cover that briefly later, about how we are trying to see to maximize and utilize our farm resources so that they can support our Auroville food sector. And the forest service is another area that is also part of the green belt buffer development, where we'll work on trying to see how to bring about a proper service, and see how we can work with the forest assets and the green assets in the green belt area. And last area is economy and growth, units and services. This is an area we are now focusing more stringently, and also trying to see how to help the various upcoming units, so that overall we can get an Auroville-wide budget, so that we understand the totality and the needs, where we are, where we need to go, and monitor. So we are doing this across all our subgroups. So that's basically the structure of FAMC and its subgroups.
Thank you, Chandresh. Let's jump in. First observation made by the governing board about governance, and maybe Torkil could comment on this one. The absence of work plans or governance and organization that ensure implementation of work plans. The other side.
Hello, good evening and good morning. You could say it's not something new that Auroville is trying to focus on economic planning and management. We have been for many years actually been what we call a reactive mode, that we have actually just tried to manage what was there. We had no proactive mode where we try to plan ahead and actually make work plans and actually try to implement work plans. It's nothing new. Even the previous governing board told us that many times, and you could say some years ago, it's actually 5 years ago, we had the big retreat, was one very big attempt from the previous governing board to push us into much more planning mode. That did not move after it was run. It was a huge project, that retreat. I think we were very disappointed, many of us who was part of it, that it did not turn into something tangible. And the present economic advisor, Manuel Thomas, who was there, told us many times, unless you do more planning, unless you do more compliance. I know everybody now hates the word compliance, but it's something we simply have to do. 5 years ago, Manuel Thomas said very clearly that compliance. If you don't do it, it will kill you. We are sitting today with many issues of compliance we don't know really how to handle. We have to move with these things. So when the new governing board came in, they came from the first meeting in November last year. They came with a long list of things that had to be done much better. Basically about planning, making work plans, and move ahead in a more proactive way. And when we saw this list, we somehow said, wow, they have done huge work. But what they actually just did is that they took the 10 years last minutes notes from the previous governing board, and they just extracted what we have been told for 10 years. So, and then they just put it into a format, made it very clear that this was we are going to work on. So each of the working group have got their list of points which they have to work on as fast as possible. And FAMC have got a list of 15 points. We are the one who have most. And that list we will try to go through, because it actually covers all the points of how to move into a planned or well-managed economy and try to look at the economy as a whole, not just trying to manage what is there. The first point I think we had in was planned that they had many years asked us to come with a full annual budget of Auroville, including all the resources and all the needs, not just what was there and what was just the urgent need. To come with a full budget that you could give an overview, how would the economy look if we had all these needs? So it has not been easy. We are working on that project. It's not easy because Auroville's economy is somehow created organically over quite a long period, and it consists of a lot of small, you could say, envelopes with money moving from one envelope to another envelope. And it's practically, it has been for many years been very difficult to get a full overview of the Auroville economy. I think we are somehow disentangling most of the things and will very soon come up with a full overview of the income and the expenses of Auroville and with the future need according to the Auroville values. I think that's enough about.
So you went for the first point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just go back.
The next point is very close to that point. The next point we were given is once you have made a full budget of all of its economy and all the needs, that should be turned into a short-term and a medium-term and a long-term plan. Because right now we all know that basically all will only have the half economy needed just to give a basic maintenance to everybody. So that's already quite a step to come to that point. So they ask us to make that, to reach that level at least. How would you do that in a short term, let's say 1 year? What will be the project for the 2-3 year? And what will be the long-term project to reach that target? And this is something we are working on right now, how we will actually achieve it. It's a big task because there's a big discrepancy between the funds that is actually available and the funds that is needed to run Auroville on a basic economy.
Yeah, let's go back. Okay. Thank you, Torkil. Before jumping into the points that the inputs to be taken into account, I just want to go back to another observation made, and maybe Shankardevy or Chandresh could shed some light into it. Let me find it. I lost my paper. Here it is. An important observation made by the governing board also was to see how to promote a culture of engagement, transparency, commitment, accountability, and integrity with all the subgroups. Maybe you could comment about these different qualities to be achieved in our system.
Yeah.
So.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Shankardevy. This is one of the very interesting point and something a favorite point of mine from the governing board minutes is this. There is a need to promote a culture of engagement, transparency, commitment, accountability, and integrity. So as someone coming from the open source software background, these are the qualities that the community that I have grown up with is something is already exhibiting, and I am very much interested in seeing how this can be implemented in our community as well. And this has two phases basically. Like one, these 5 qualities can be something that we exhibit in our activities within our community, and these are the same qualities that we need to also exhibit to the world outside, that is helping or donating, contributing to realizing of this dream of Auroville. So I'm starting with this transparency as the baseline, because this is the kind of, I also feel like as FAMC, we need to bring in the transparency as one key thing in all of our works, and as a baseline, as an environment for everything else to flourish. And some of the other points that we are working on, actually, like when we go through the individual points word by word, you'll see how these 5 qualities that the governing board has given us as an observation is getting implemented in our actions. We'll see that in our actual tasks.
Thank you. So now we can resume the overview of the different points. So let me put the camera back in Torkil. It is. So the first 2 points that we had addressed were the preparation of an annual Auroville budget that includes all resources and all needs. The second, Torkil, you touched upon, was the preparation of a medium and long-term economy plan, including financial plans of the income-generating units of Auroville. And maybe you could address the third point, which is make capital available for the growth of existing income-generating units and startup capital for new income-generating units.
We have somehow always said there's a lack of funds in Auroville. That's not really true. There is actually quite a lot of funds in Auroville, but they are stuck in many different places. Somehow we have a kind of internal joke as economists here that we said there should be no circulation of money in Auroville. And it's a bit funny that there are circulation of money because our financial service system is basically a transaction system. But it never meant there could be no circulation of funds. And that's what we have actually mostly focused on. So there are funds available lying in many different parts of Auroville, which is not properly utilized.
So they are not circulating.
They are not circulating.
So we can make that circulation.
Yeah. So I'm sure the mother would have been here and she had seen funds not being used in somewhere corner of Auroville. She had immediately pushed them to another corner to get them utilized. But that has been difficult for us. There are many systemic problems in this. What that means that we have reestablished the loan fund, and that means we have to work hard on how that loan fund actually could be made much better. So it means that we actually could make funds available for economic growth. But making funds available means that it's a loan, it has to be paid back because it's not, Auroville has somehow got used to the idea that when we talk about finance, that finance means you get a donation and then you spend the money. And that's not finance. Finance means you actually have to pay it back. And that's sometimes maybe healthy because if you just get money donated, it's not always the best utilization of money because there's actually no pressure of using this money efficiently. So maybe it is actually okay that there's a kind of request to utilize the money so you actually to pay them back. I think if that answers your question for that.
Sure,
part.
if you feel that it's a...
We can add some and I'll add some more to this. Yeah.
So Shankardevy is going to add to this point.
Yeah, not to this point, like just to the previous 2 points.
Okay.
And then Chandresh can add to this third
Okay.
point. So the preparation of annual budget, it's something that FAMC is working along with BCC, and it is something to be soon rolled out to the community. So we'll be calling for our new annual budget by December, mid-December. We haven't yet fixed the dates, but that's something that we have already started working on. And in this process, also taking in from the observation that the governing board made, which is this, what is it? Yeah. So the culture of engagement, transparency, commitment, accountability, and integrity. And we want to see how we can bring in all these qualities in the next budget request that we are going to make, which means like we want to be transparent, and also we want to make this as an accountability factor as well. So services that are asking for budgets, we are going to look at it as like a crowdfunding projects, basically like all over the world. The way of crowdfunded projects has a very high level of accountability to the community that is supporting this. And in a way, like all these services within Auroville or like a crowdfunded, each and every unit in Auroville or the Aurovillians are contributing to this fund. And that's what the BCC is actually dispersing into different services. So in the next budget request that we are going to send out in mid-December, we are going to see how all these, like in a corporate world, these are seen as a KPIs, like what is this?
Indication. Key performance indication.
Key performance indications. Yeah, so that's something that Ocean and Ocean from BCC and I have been discussing. Okay, how can we put in these KPIs in the budget request forms so that when we when we disperse these funds and throughout the year there is a kind of an accountability. There is some kind of an, not to BCC or to FAMC, but to the community as a whole, because we want to see these services accountable to the community. Yeah. So that's something I wanted to bring in. Yeah. Otherwise, good to go.
Does Ocean wants to add something?
You want to add something?
I think this is in a nutshell what we are planning to do.
Please. Okay. Then
I just wanted to add to this capital and the growth of existing units. So one area that there are some units that have done pretty well and successful, and different people have tried to see what avenues we can do to maybe do some joint ventures outside. So what would be the proper legal structure under the Auroville Foundation is an area that has been explored, and we have to see how to again pick it up, because with the legal setup and the system and process audit, we have to see properly. And we have now some officers that are brought in by the foundation and the new governing board. And maybe we can propose some possibility that we have been thinking over the years, and then see how they can give feedback from the government perspective of how we can take it forward. So basically some joint ventures where we have certain brand recognition and some other people want to take it in a larger context of deploying it. So we can see how that can be structured. And so that I wanted to share.
Could add something to that? Sure. The size of Auroville units have always been a question that we have actually tried to examine it quite carefully. It seems the fact, except for very few examples, Auroville units, even if they're very economically successful, they grow only to a certain scale and then they stall there. There are many reasons for that. We somehow a little bit jokingly call it they're bonsai companies. That they, like a bonsai, they're very beautiful in a way, but they go to a certain scale and then they don't grow bigger. And that could be beautiful, and it's very much a beautiful part of Auroville that it is like that. But from you could say from an economic growth point of view, and for the need of the community to have more income, this is a problem, because small units, and especially units that are still growing, they cannot contribute very much. It's basically like anywhere in the world. It's only mature units who have grown to a certain scale that have enough economic resources to share. And so it would be interesting if we could at least grow a few units bigger with a much higher contribution. I think we are still thinking a lot about it, because it seems that there are kind of systematic things in Auroville that makes it difficult. It can be our structure of executives, it can be the way the whole system works. And then maybe, as Chandresh said, one of the solutions is actually to allow a joint ventureship of very few units, which we say has a potential. And if we are not able in Auroville to use this potential, it might be an idea to allow a joint ventureship which uses this potential. That's something we will discuss, and also discuss with the community, because it's a difficult decision, because it will have different repercussions. It has been explored for quite some years, this model, so we know somehow legal how it can be done. But let's see. But that's something that is on the table at least.
okay, shall I go to the next point?
Yes.
So the fourth point: establish an innovation and incubation center for the youth to be actively engaged. And I think Chandresh and Shankar will be elaborating on this point.
Yes. Yes. So I've been personally engaged in last 15 years in Auroville to work on an innovation incubation center in what we call the Sarakan Incubation Center. And 22 units and activities of variety of engagement in Auroville community have passed through that. most of them have become successful, moved on to their own unit and place also, and some have been closed. So idea is that we should see how to encourage more innovation and young people to come in and join. Because today what happens is there are no locations for as an ideation center. We don't have a prototyping lab or incubation lab or innovation lab where such things can be feasible. So we have prepared some project proposals, which with the TDC, and we'll see if we can make some capital available from our restructuring of our full economic potential in the bank that is sitting and other areas, so that we can create innovation centers. So when young people join, they have some areas where we can, co-pollinate ideas from different backgrounds, and there's cohabitat where their basic needs are met, and they have places for breakout rooms, or there's a community dining hall, there is amphitheater, cycle repair shops, one convenience store, things like that. So come up with some structures which can be then scaled a little bit in the industrial zone area. So those are things that we have been talking. There's some proposal also on the table now. And idea is to see how we can bring about environment for young people to join who are really driven by the ideas. So that is what is our guiding principle about transparency, and then bringing about accountability. And then young people, when they come, when they actually, a lot of people resonate with that. So we need to see how to bring that movement together.
Yeah. So just to add to what Chandresh has said, like FAMC also very recently applied for Atal Community Innovation Center. So this is an innovation center started by Atal Innovation Mission in India. It's set up by the Niti Aayog Commission of India, and we have recently applied for it. It doesn't mean that we have got this innovation center yet, but when the FAMC members have met these committee members from Atal Community Innovation Center, they were very positive about the establishment of such centers in Auroville, which would help the youth from Auroville to work with the infrastructure that can be set up through this kind of network with the nationwide Atal Innovation Centers. So that's something that we have initiated from FAMC. And the other thing is there are also not just waiting for this Atal Community Innovation Center. As Chandresh said, we are already looking at various ways we can support our youth in Auroville. And I'm also aware that Torkil and Kalia again have been working in the same area and meeting different entrepreneurs and startup incubators, and to see how we can bring them all within Auroville and help our youth come up with new business ideas.
Okay, I'll add a few more points. So actually, we are also looking at integration of the youth from the bioregion in technology and into innovation. And Sanjeev, one of our, he in SIRE, which is our educational institution, is from quite some years started a STEM program, whereby many of the young engineers and technically qualified people would teach youngsters to develop knowledge, this programming and other STEM subjects, and partly also learn to work in a high-tech environment from here, and through remote consulting. So that model has worked out quite good with a lot of, and then we also have this fiber infrastructure project where many of the village youth who have done engineering have joined, and now they are really managing the whole project by themselves. So in that regard, there's also this Yuvabe is a new team that has come up. Actually, it will going to the leading on to our strength and supporting the knowledge economy, which Shankar and I we can continue. So just to bring everybody up to point, number 4.5 is strengthen and support the knowledge economy. And these are all leading into that, whatever we're sharing here. There's also now very stable consulting business, Auroville Consulting. They are working into smart city project. They have worked on the solar energy areas to, promote solar energy and even within Auroville. So, and as Orinoco, which is done the fiber infrastructure, we are providing the smart city solutions, remote monitoring. So there are a lot of knowledge-based economy solution that you started bringing up, and with the Auroville and from the around. So that knowledge economy area, this is how we're addressing. Maybe Shankar can also, because he also is running actually Talam, and he can give more about how he's working with this.
Yeah, just or to add to what Chandresh said. So on the knowledge economy side, like Talam has started a program called Y Code. This is something we are looking at as a 3-year course that any Auroville youth or bioregion youth can come and participate. There is no money strings attached to it. It's a gift for the community. And the aim or the intention behind is that like Auroville needs a lot of IT knowledge to build the community, to build our city that is housing 50,000 people. And currently, the fact is that all this knowledge or the expertise in the IT field or something that is imported, that is people who were born and brought up outside Auroville, having this knowledge, came to Auroville and supporting it. There are some exceptions I have seen, but the majority is from outside. For example, I came from outside and have this skill. The intention for Y Code is how can we make the Auroville youth like pick up these important skills and build solutions and products that are serving our community. And in that sense, like there is already like about 6 months the program has passed in, and we have 6 people right now in the program, and they have already started contributing to the guest registration service software. And these are the areas like Mother says that in Auroville, all our needs, all our work should be done by Aurovillians. And if we don't have a specific skill, it should be like we should hire some people, get the job done, but at the same time, get it trained so that we ourselves are able to do that next time. And if you look at how these 6 students have picked up the skills, they are already into developing solutions that different services will start using. So in a way, like we are becoming more and more of self-reliant, and this is the kind of programs that we want to encourage. So how can, if a unit has been established with the skills that has been acquired from outside, how can we bring those skills within Auroville? So that's one area that we are working on. Yeah, over to you.
Someone of you would like to add something about the knowledge economy, or yeah?
We're going to talk about the Auroville wide information service, integrated information service.
Maybe.
Huh? You want me to? Okay.
Okay. Bring it back to you.
Sure. So in several of our working groups, we have a database to help us keep track of our assets, of our human resources and our lands and our finance. So these databases were kind of separate and were not totally scalable. So at this point, there is a project we are launching that will allow all Auroville wide integrated information service that will take care of the various needs of the various Auroville subgroups of FAMC and all the departments of Auroville, so that we can have a on need basis the information that is available. Of course, we also need to have some training on utilizing such tools so that people in the services can be more productive. So that's the goal of this Auroville wide integrated information service. It's part of the new knowledge economy you're trying to inculcate.
Into the next one.
Okay.
I can. So just to add it.
Yeah, please add the comment.
Yeah. I think what Chandresh shared now actually leads to the next point, which is like all Auroville lands, building and assets must be utilized to generate collective resources for Auroville as a whole. And reading this along with the observation that the governing board has made, like promoting a culture of engagement, transparency. And what FAMC is also looking at is like, how can we make these stewardships more and more transparent? And if when we say transparent, it's like, okay, we are given certain resources, whether it is land or office buildings or school, like whatever facility in Auroville. When we want to know, okay, what is the most appropriate way of utilizing these resources, then there should be a clear way to see, okay, what has been given to different people, different resources, different units, different services, and how they are using it. And if they are using it in the right way, and and some kind of accountability from the side of these people who are using the resources to provide services to the community. So that's something we know there are so many good things happening in Auroville. Just that this transparency layer or this layer of clear information is not right now available. Right now, we don't know how many buildings are there, and we don't have a clear way to know, okay, what is this building used for and how long, what has been, all these records are right now kind of a missing thing. And AIS is in a way is going to resolve this problem of missing information. And once this missing information is properly captured in a transparent and an accountable way, then comes like we can look into proper utilization of these assets as well. That's
right. Kalia or Torkil?
Yeah. I can explain a little bit on that. So basically, what was missing in Auroville is the data on complete building assets that we have in Auroville, and also the land which are inside the master plan and outside the master plan basically was missing. And now we have started taking the data on all the buildings in Auroville along with the housing, which will in fact help us to fill up the houses. Now, if we know a certain portion of the buildings are empty, some youths and volunteers can go and stay there. So this is in fact helping us in a lot of other ways also. So once the complete data has been done, we can also use certain buildings for incubation centers and startups also. This is also our idea. And later what we are also thinking is to collect data on all the lands which are inside the master plan and outside the master plan. So like that, we can create some more income through the outlying lands which are around Auroville basically, which are not utilized properly. So this will create some more farms, and so to streamline the farms and forest, or like the green covers basically. And once the data for the buildings and land is done, we will also be creating a policy, or land use policy will be created. So there is more transparency in this way also. So we will be intensively looking into that in the near future.
Maybe I could add something.
Yeah.
You could say the good news is that we have a huge amount of assets, because if we didn't have assets, it would be much more difficult, because getting assets is a painful job. But many of these assets are not used. And, we are always talking about we should buy some more land in these lands. That's also true, but the other part of the truth is that we have more than 1 acre of land per Auroville. So it's not that we are actually missing land. It's we have put aside 400 acres of land for farming, and we assume now that maybe less than 25% of that land is actually farmed. So it's not actually that we don't have resources, but we just have to find a better way to utilize its resources. There can be many reasons why this is not so. It's not to blame anybody. There are a lot of systemic reasons why it's not possible to utilize it. But I would say the good thing is that we have these resources, because else it would have been much more difficult to get on. So let's just get on with the work and use these resources in a more efficient way. Then it should be possible within a shorter time of years to reach an economy that is actually able to sustain the people who live here. I think this question also leads into the other task we were given, which is called that we should somehow use the outlying lands of Auroville. Outlying lands means, in this respect, it means that it's outside the master plan. There are more than 1,100 acres outside the master plan, which is to a large degree not used to anything. A lot of them are quite valuable, seeing the respect that somebody could use. That means they're willing to give a very high price. Auroville cannot sell these lands. We have actually asked several times if it was possible. We had this dream that at least you could sell some of the lands we would never use to create a kind of investment fund to develop. But we have actually been clearly told that this would be very, very difficult. The laws in India blocks trust and foundations to sell assets because you cannot dilute a trust. But so that's why we generally can only exchange lands. That means we can use some of the outlying lands to exchange for lands inside the master plan. We are doing that to a certain degree. That's also a way to do it because exchange is seen in the legal context that you have the same amount of land, you're just having some other land. So we're not breaking any rules. But we have been clearly asked that some of these lands should be used to create income for the community. And some of the options that could be in that is to do joint ventureship with outside companies where we put in the land, which often has a very high value. And that means you could expect quite an income to come back. So that could at least be a way to use it. Some of these lands are just lying empty and fallow. So it would make a lot of sense to put them into some kind of use. There are different proposals right now, nothing very concrete. Some about a hotel, some about a university, some about to make a sustainable development park for modern industries in Pondicherry. So many of these things could be interesting also for an Auroville point of view, but the main focus is actually just to utilize these assets for something instead of just lying them fallow.
Very good. Maybe, Torkil, we can continue with the next point, which is the elimination of internal money exchange.
Maybe Shankar is
Shankar
better than that. I can start with it, of course.
Yeah.
It has always been on the agenda of Auroville to eliminate internal money exchange. I don't know how successful we have been, not at least until recently, is because we basically had just created some transaction system which allows cash to be outed. So it's more a cashless society than a transaction less society we have created. But most of the world are going into a cashless society, and India is actually also very fast moving into a cashless society. So maybe Auroville will not achieve it by itself, but we will achieve it because the development goes in that direction. But I think I leave the word to Shankar, who from his units is working a lot to establish the possibilities that there should be no reason why you want to use cash and bank transaction in Auroville. We should be able to handle all these things. The main thing is to make it so easy that you have no excuse to why you would not do it. Can I give you the word to you, Shankar?
Yeah. So when we say elimination of internal money exchange, there are actually two things. Like, are we looking at it as a philosophical way, as or in the value sense that Mother has said, like there is no exchange of money, which I believe it's not. Mother was not talking about a digital transaction as a way, but she was talking about completely different. And that part of changing our way of living, changing our way of interacting within our community is something is yet to be discovered. Like it's something like there are prosperity systems that are being explored, which will address this. And personally, for me, like with my last few years of work with Auroville, I've always emphasized the work as a gift culture. So that's something that I also taken up as part of Talam's work, contributing work as a gift. But specifically in terms of this money exchange, right now, we are also looking at like not just that aspect of what Mother said as no exchange of money, but when we look at our current way of working, we are also using a lot of cash, which is not very as India moved to the digital world, all these the world outside Auroville is starting to accept digital money rather than the actual cash, the physical cash money. And it's only in that area of removing cash that we have making more progress these days. And one thing that as FAMC has started looking into is bringing in systems that enable more and more of digital transaction within Auroville, which will help us being more and more transparent, accountable, and compliant with our laws of the land. Like, for example, by eliminating cash transactions, we ensure all the money that comes to Auroville are properly accounted. And the way to do this is we are tying up with the ICICI and the SBI. Both these banks have given their proposal of what are the services that they are willing to offer to Auroville. And through these services, we'll be soon implementing virtual banking systems, so that even a very small activity which wants to start collecting money from the visitors or guests or even from anyone in Auroville, so they can start using these virtual bank accounts to accept money digitally, and it gets properly accounted in our system. That's something that we have taken up. And along with this kind of, this is for payments, right? And there is also the other aspect of donations, which also needs to be properly accounted. And I think I can take that up in the next point, which is transparent financial management. But in this case of elimination of money exchange, which I read it as elimination of cash exchange, physical paper cash exchange, I think we'll be able to soon roll out at least in the next financial year, we can establish an environment where there is no, where everywhere in Auroville, we have a digital payment mode. So that's possible.
Very good. Maybe Chandresh would like to add about the prosperity system.
Yeah, so as Shankar alluded, the internal money exchange, no money exchange is what she meant, right? And of course, what is in our basic charter, or at least in the document that she said, is that the community will take care of the Auroville. Right? So taking care, there are many areas, right? You can start with at least the basic needs that should be taken care, like prosperity, right? Which will be their basic food, their clothing, their mobility, their communications. All these transactions today can be taken out, right? Housing. So even the housing, the house maintenance, I'm trying to see as a FAMC that we take that into the community budget, so that people don't have to worry about taking a loan or something to even repair a house, leaking or painting, something, right? So these are areas we are looking as a whole to see how all those transactions we can take out. Yeah. So then they don't need to be part of the digital or any transaction, right? So that's where we have to move for moneyless thing. Now, in terms of extra at a higher level, we have to see, but at least within Auroville, with the residents' needs, if we can at least start with that.
Torkil, you wanted to?
Yeah, maybe I'll just take a little bit of historic thinking. When Auroville was formed more than 50 years ago, prosperity or basic need was much simpler. It was a very simple lifestyle at that time. You need some clothes, you need a bit of food, you would have a bicycle, that was it. What has become, what we see as a basic need in Auroville is a very different way. The world have changed, we have changed. Now, basic need will include mobile phone, internet connection, bike, petrol, a lot of things. We one time actually tried to see what is basic expenses for a normal Aurovillian, and we came to that around 75% of the things we cannot simply make. So we cannot make petrol, we cannot make bikes, we cannot make mobile phones. All of these things we have to buy. It was simpler 50 years ago because we could assume that we will make our own soap, we will make our own food, we could even make our own clothes. So we could be a totally self-sufficient society. This is not more possible because we need to buy mobile phones. We have to sell something to the outside to be able to get enough funds to buy these mobile phones. So what we are talking about now is more self-supportive community. That is, that we have enough funds or earn enough funds that we are able to support ourselves at least as a basic living. That's a bit of a challenge because right now the economy of Auroville only supports half of the adult population with the maintenance. So you can see very simply just to create a basic maintenance for all, the Auroville economy should double. And you could say to a certain degree, the maintenance is not high enough. A lot of people are complaining that they cannot survive on it. Of course, it's also that we have made it equal for everybody. And of course, we know that in people's life cycle, the resources need that different. When you are a young family with children, you need other funds. When you have children who goes to study, maybe a retired person can sustain themselves on a basic maintenance, but people in other life phases cannot do it. So we will need even more resources to cover these basic needs. So it's a huge challenge to push the Auroville economy to be self-supportive, but I think it's possible. I think that's what I told you. We have the resources, we have the land, we have a lot of things. It's not that we are starting from scratch. If you just could get things moving much better together, I think we could move ahead. But we all have to pull into this to make this happen. Because right now we are quite an unequal society of people who have and people who don't have. There's a lot of fight to get a maintenance because that's the way you can survive, or you try to find some kind of subsistence living and try to get an activity just to support yourself. I'm not sure that's the right way. We are quite sure that it would be much better if more people actually worked in the units. I got their maintenance from a unit instead of trying to survive on different needs. But that's a longer stretch.
And that is where our next push is to get more newcomers, right? I mean, we want more youngsters who are idealists who want to join this project for its own, merit or what it encourages them. And in just an anecdote that initially when Auroville started, a lot of people, they were saying, look, we are only 200, 300, it's very difficult to sustain, to maintain and this and that. There's so many things we have to do and we're struggling. So she said, look, once you are 10,000 people, all your economic problems will be taken care of. It will by itself. So for us at this point, we have been 50 years and we have not been able to cross that, magic threshold of 2,500 to 3,000. So the new push is how to make our structures more sustainable, but also scalable. I think for FAMC, that's a challenge, so that more people can start joining in next 4, 5, 6 years, so that our strength of the youth and other people who can help us, become more self-sustaining is added. Yeah, that pool of fun. And so again, as he was mentioning with prosperity, we need to have a basket of needs that are of a few varieties. For family, there will be different types. And when people can choose which basket of need they would like to use in the different times of their life. So those are areas we are thinking, but these are all kind of long-term wish lists that we have put, and we'll have to see how to move to it. As long as we all are on the same page, I think that's critical as a team.
I just want to add a few things. I think we just touched it, that we have ideas of putting housing into prosperity. It has always been the ideal of Auroville that housing would be taken care of. It has never happened. It's had always been that people have to finance their own housing. And it has created quite a complex system. It has created a lot of disparity in the community. Some have funds to have a big house, some have no funds to actually have a house at all. And in many ways, it has been a very complicated thing where we even resell the houses again to get funds back again to build new houses. So we have played with a lot of things, which I don't think really was meant to be like that. But of course, it came out of a situation where we did not have funds. So we invented a strange rule that allowed funds to flow and create housing. And one of the main problem I see is that some people have had a lot of funds to do that. So it somehow have created a bit of a community where people who have funds but maybe don't have the biggest need to work have moved in because they had the funds to do that. And I'm not sure if that's the right way to go. I'm quite sure we will look at it, and the idea is to actually integrate it somehow in the the maintenance system, we are trying to put up an economic model where you try to put in what will happen if you actually put this in, because it's not that everything will collapse by that, it will move in, but at least we could go in the right direction that part of your maintenance is actually housing. So housing is not kept as a separate thing that has its own life in order, because I don't think that's the right way to go. And also because this that you actually pay for your house in Auroville creates a very strong ownership to your place, because you feel you have actually paid for this place. And that creates a lot of other problems. And I think it would be better that we get out of this kind of, I feel, a bit of a trap. But let's see, that's a bit of a challenge, but I think it's very important, because a lot of complexities in housing and a lot of inequalities in Auroville comes from this situation.
So there was a second dimension to this point of ensuring that all basic needs of a resident are met, but that all residents contribute to the realization of Auroville. Would like to elaborate on that aspect also?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just start and then you can add. Yeah. Basically, we are trying to now form a strong human resources team, and so that and also recently this exercise has been done community-wide, whereby the register of resident has been updated over the last 3-4 months, where at least there was a query requesting all the residents to say where would you like to work, or where you think your strengths lie, so that it can be best optimally used for Auroville. So the query has been done, but we also trying to now strengthen the human resources team, so that we look at what the working groups need in the next few years, so that Auroville can become self-sustaining, grow, scale. And in that way, we'll ask the various working groups to say what human resources you need. But along with that, we also see what our basic needs can be met. So there are a few areas FAMC is looking at to strengthen the human resource team, but also what are the resources we will need in terms of supporting these people. Yeah, so that is where we are moving.
Yeah, so this is also related to, like, in a way related to the 4.13 point by the governing board, where it says like contribution by income generating units to be reviewed. And if we also read it along with their other observation, where they also say, what is it? It is not very clear how many adult Aurovillians are contributing through work towards the realization of the aims and objectives of Auroville. So if we combine these two things, and one of the things that FAMC is currently looking at is also like how can we make it very clear, or like make it very clear for the community to understand, okay, contribution to the community through work is an important priority. And like there are people in a very conservative numbers, we are looking at almost 500 people for whom we don't have any clear idea of or clear data of where they are working in for Auroville, or even contributing the minimum 3,470 rupees as an Auroville contribution. Yeah, so this is something that we want to transparently ask these people, like first by direct communication with them to understand, okay, as per our understanding, we don't see any data. Can we know more about your work, so that we include your work as part of our planning processes as well. But what are your skills? Where do you want to work in Auroville? And so that's something like the 4.13 actually talks about just the unit contribution, but we are also expanding it to the individual contributions as well. That's something I wanted to share. And then we also received, like in one of my posts on Auronet, there was one beautiful comment by an Aurovillian where he was saying like, why can't we build Auroville like an open source community, like where when the data is widely available, why can't the working groups invite people to say, okay, these are the sets of data available, like people adding a piece of code to the software. why can't groups can send out, okay, these are the areas of our work. Can you pick up one thing and come up with a proposal and help us implement it? And I think that's one beautiful suggestion from the resident. And in the coming days, we want to see how can we bring more and more of these contribution from the community members also be part of building Auroville.
Very good. Since we had touched upon the contribution by income generating units to be reviewed, maybe Ocean, you would like to add something? Bring the camera.
Well, we are asking our units to contribute 33% to share their profits, basically. And what we are planning to do in the very near future is to strengthen the internal controls and automate this process. Basically, to achieve a completeness of the contributions and good timing to enhance our cash flow. We have also, we aim to encourage, to help, to find ways to help the units grow. And we have a draft of a pilot project in the area of central purchasing to help the units in food processing sector to use centralized services to bring the purchasing costs down and to share some services in marketing and in sales. That's from our side.
Shall we move to the next point? Which is enhance solar input production to meet the needs of Auroville. Chandresh, I'll bring it to you.
So, as we had observed before, that we have almost 350 to 400 acres of farmlands, of which maybe 150 or so are currently under production. But again, these numbers, I don't have the detail in hand, but very, there is a lot of land that could be utilized effectively for expanding our food, growing more food. And traditionally, what has happened is our farm group together, they produce food and give it to Food Link, which most of the food only goes to Auroville. And then for now, only 17% of the food that we consume as a community comes from our farms. And there is what we are now looking into is how do we look at more modern integrated techniques to use smaller plots of 2 to 5 acres, which will bring in organic growing techniques and monitoring of the thing with a studied proper technical pilot projects of agro industry in a smaller scale. And we want to see how we can then bring in more young people who would like to work on the farms and utilize these new techniques so that more of our food can be produced. Now, it's not necessary because our soil produces certain amount of types of food. And of course, there's rotation, all that. So idea is that if we can work with our wholesale partners who like Auroville's organic food production for a larger market in Pondicherry or Chennai, then what happens is it's not necessary that what we produce in Auroville will be the only one consumed in Auroville, right? But what we also consume in Auroville, which is actually a lot of the almost 80 to 70-80% is coming from outside. At least the cash for that can be generated from our farms. Idea is how we can become sustainable for what we consume today in a certain basic manner. Of course, there'll always be people who will look at very esoteric and all that, but we're looking at simple and basic needs for bulk of the families, and how we can make that self-sustaining as a farm economy.
Very
Kalia,
good.
we want to add more on this.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You want? No. So if you see the farming sector right now is actually, basically they are not collective. They are having some differences between farmers. Despite we have wonderful farmers in Auroville who are mainly, we are mainly focusing on organic food. If you see last chairman's concern, he was questioning how can we are not able to take care of 3,000 plus residents with the kind of land we are using for farming. So this, when we looked into it, we have good farmers, but there's something which is not working amongst themselves. So this is something we are already starting to look, mainly Chandresh and myself are looking into this. This is where we are going to put next couple of months of our effort in restructuring the farms also, so that we will be able to produce enough for the existing and the future population of our also.
Very good. So we have 3 more points, but I would like to keep us some time for the question, and we have quite a few questions that have come in. So maybe Chandresh could give a short and succinct information about the aspect of simplify the governance and organization structure within Auroville, trust unit, activities and committees.
Right. So today, organically, Auroville has grown into a very ballooned giant mushroom. So we have 680 units or activities, and we are only an adult population of some less than 2,000. And so it is it's almost each person pending for themselves. So we're trying to see also in terms of more productive engagement, we need to reduce. We have about 44 trusts, and we have like 290 units. So we were trying to see if those were small and not have been productive over the last 3-4 years, to trying to see how they can consolidate their resources, either join our, through human resources team, join our working groups, which are, in need for bringing in much more Aurovillians to start working, or also maybe strengthen a few of the good units so that they can grow into a larger scale. And the small one, we say, look, if you're not able to sustain, either you merge with other people or you start working with other units. So basically, we're trying to streamline and observe and see how we can bring them together. Maybe Torkil can add a little more on that and follow up on that.
Say when the Auroville Foundation was created, there was actually only a few trusts that came in from the society side. And it was actually planned that you will take the contents out of these trusts and then merge them into the foundation. For some reason, it never happened. And then you actually just started making more trusts. So we ended up having 42 trusts now. And the idea about the trust was actually that they in some way should monitor the units that are in their trust. To some degree it had worked, to some degree it has not worked. Now this layer has become very expensive because as you will know, that all the units accounts are actually merged together into the Foundation Act. But right now, the consolidation goes through the trust first, then you do an auditing of that, and then you consolidate another time into the foundation, and then you do an audit of that, and then you send it to the Ministry of Education, and they do an audit again. So it's a very expensive system, which I think in the end will not be possible to run. It will simply be too costly. Sometimes we make a joke here that the biggest activity in Auroville is actually now accounting, and it's not very productive, I would say. So we have to find an end to make accounting that is just what is needed, not to make a big circus out of it. So I think a lot of the thoughts right now is to, at least whenever you have a reliable and integrated accounting system for all the units, the thought is to actually abolish the trust structure. Another system has to be put in. That will probably be to put the trust together in sector-wise, and then have a managing board for each of these trusts. But it's still on the thought level, but I think it's needed to go in that direction because it's simply too complicated what we're doing.
Very good. The last point we wish to address was the model envisaged Auroville as a self-supporting town. All Auroville residents are expected to contribute to achieving this goal and worked for the collective welfare of Auroville. I think we have already addressed.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a wish to add, or shall we go to the question?
I think we can go more to the questions.
Okay, so let me check the question. Putting the camera on the So, okay, so we have a question here from Bala, asking if newcomers and how can newcomers and Auroville aliens maintain themselves if they do not earn with some independent occupation, meaning, I guess, as of now, people need to have an extra occupation to maintain themselves. So how do we see that for the future? I think it has been partly addressed already in the webinar. Anybody would want to add something? We have explained the idea to scale up the economy of Auroville and the prosperity system.
So if you want, I can just answer his question. So he's saying how newcomers and Aurovillians maintain themselves. Well, right now Auroville does support, as we were mentioning in the webinar, that we have a lot of units and services, and also we are scaling up our development of Auroville township itself, because Government of India, this new governing board has in principle provided a lot of support for the growth of Auroville. So there will be much more support coming, and so those who want to join, we will put them into our maintenance system if they are working fully within Auroville.
The acoustic quality?
I can't see it.
So, so somebody is telling us that our acoustic is not very good, so apologies for that. We'll go for the next question. More and more residential assets are being converted as guest house, whereas we are in a dearth of residential houses. How do we plan to accommodate more new people, especially how we plan to welcome more young people, those who have less or no means to contribute towards their residence?
Okay, I can try to answer that one. We are just about to launch a house survey where this will also be checked out. Basically, Auroville houses cannot, without permission, be rented out. I think there's, to a certain degree, we also helped by the compliance rules that are changing in India, is that if you have a real guest house, you actually have to comply to a lot of rules on fire, to food safety, and have a lot of certificates. So it's actually only now you could say that real guest houses of a certain scale will be able to do that. What we call homestays, the lower parts of the guest houses, will not be able to comply to this, I'm sure. And the rule in India has now changed that homestay is allowed in India, but only because that's the limitation. They were afraid that a lot of people will just rent a lot of places and rent them out at homestay, because homestay does not have to comply to the rules. But the rule is very strict in India that you have to be the owner of the place to rent it out as a homestay. And as Aurovillians for sure are not owners of their place, they cannot technically do it. So I think we will have an effort going on very soon that all these smaller guest houses and homestays, they will have to only adapt to volunteers and newcomers. So I think that's an answer for that question.
Okay, next question. Please tell us what is needed financially to maintain 50,000 people, and what are the gaps which needs to be bridged? Someone wants to give it a try?
we could easily come with a number what 50,000 people would need of an economy, and the ballpark number is that if you need double the economy to just to maintain 3,000, then you will actually need 30 times more economy to sustain 50,000. But it's economic development is not like that. It comes when people comes. It also comes with an economy. So it's not that you have to create the economy and then the people come. And no economic development takes place like that, because that is not going to happen. So it's not a chicken and egg situation. It's actually when people come, especially the right people come, they will also provide new economy. So it's something that goes along with the development. So I don't think it makes much sense to create that big number and then just get very shocked and say, how will you ever get that kind of money? Because it's not going to work like that. If you can get a flow of new people to settle here, find a way that they can settle, find a way that they can start contributing to the community and contributing to the economy, then it just moves like that. And then we will reach that number just not by looking at that number in itself, but it will just come not by itself, but with a lot of other work. So I think it's dangerous to look at a number like that, because you will just get frozen in your effort to get anywhere, because you say, wow, that's just not going to work. So that's my point of view.
Next question, is there any timeline to develop how many houses to accommodate thousands of new residents that we are planning to invite by 2025?
So I'll take that one. See, at this point, FAMC is looking at the finance of projects and economy and new assets that get developed, right? TDC is the team that is looking at the development and housing sector that they are opening up. Now, we can say that FAMC's role is to strengthen how to generate, not strengthen, but look at resources, how to bring in funds. And we are looking at that, but this is goes hand in glove with TDC, which will start developing plans of which areas to develop. And for that, we need also the infrastructure to support those people who are going to be staying. So there are certain catches which are in the pipeline right now, with unfortunately the cases that are been put as a cog in the wheels, they have been thrown in the spanner, right? So the development of new houses depends on the infrastructure to support the services that need to support them, the electricity, the water, the sewage, and other stuff, and of course, simple mobility. So there are certain factors that have to work together. So it's not necessarily, timeline is not a right question, but that's okay. I mean, you understand the flow that we have to all work together as a team in order to make sure that we can hasten the building of new houses. FAMC can definitely look at what avenues we can give to generate some fund, maybe look at some of the housing development corporation or a few other areas that can give us some loans. So those are some of the things we are exploring right now.
Okay. Next question. Today, Prime Minister spoke on how online and digital account funding all illegal activities very freely. Since Auroville is globalized, do we consider to take precautions over this?
Yeah, this is definitely one of the main areas of our concern, and also precautions that we want to take. And right now, all the money that we are specifically with the regulations like FCRA Act of 2010 and the amendments that are made in 2020, we want to see how all this can be incorporated in a systematic way, so that all the donations that are received in the name of the foundation are properly channeled and utilization certificates are properly generated back to the government. So basically, it's tracing the money from the donor to the end beneficiary, and to ensure that the money that has been received for a specific purpose is getting utilized for that specified purpose. That's something that FAMC is very keen on looking into. We have already started the process. There are proposals that are in the foundation's office table to decide. And very soon, as I also said in the previous points when I was talking about digital banking, This is something that will definitely be rolled out in the next financial year. We are trying to do it even earlier as much as possible.
I may add to that. See, illegal activities is very broader term, because what Shankar mentioned was the known channels like the donation payment gateway, which is FCRA, and we also get donation within India. So anything related with donation, definitely we can channelize it and track it down to the utilization part using automation and some more online technology. What is not in our purview, and it's also not maybe feasible for FAMC, is anything transaction done by individuals or other people overseas to individuals. So those things are not something in our purview anyway, right? Because we will not even know. So these are something that, of course, will not be something that anything we can address. So.
Good. So there was a question, could you share the list of points from the 57 governing board meeting on the chat? So we just saw the question now, so we were not able to do it. But what you should know is that the minutes of the governing board meeting can be found on the Auroville Foundation website, which is aurovillefoundation.org.in. Auroville Foundation in one word. So I'll take the next question. Do you have a list of work areas where you would like to invite new people to offer their services while intending to join the community?
Yeah, that can be a long list. Don't worry. It's all from farm to human resources to IT administration to economic planning to startup and acceleration. So everybody who has skills in all these sectors, please come forward. We will need many hands to do this. So I will be happy. But anybody who wants to work, welcome. It's more the intention to work than actually we'll find a place for everybody.
Yeah, I would just add to that, saying that coming out of my mind as we speak, we as FAMC could also put out a message on Auronet. All these minutes of the meetings are already online. But we can also proactively say, okay, these are the points that the governing board has given us. And do you see an area in which you can start contributing to it? And that's something that we can send out through FAMC on Auronet and other platforms as well. And as I also mentioned, one of the community members also already started asking on the Auronet platform, okay, you are talking about transparency, data and other things, and also open source. Why can't you invite us to also start contributing in smaller ways? We are ready. So I think the intentions from the community members are also there. And I don't know if this person is from the community or from outside, but wherever this person is coming from, they can definitely reach out to us, write to famc@auroville.org.in if they want to directly email us. And within the community, we'll also soon reach out for more collaboration.
And if I may add, if over the last 4 months, we have been putting our monthly report on the first of the month for the previous month. Now, this current one, we have definitely put a list of areas that FAMC is seeking people to join and help. It's in our report, FAMC report. So please, those who are in Auroville and who would like to start helping out, go to Auronet, and I think it also should be on our news and notes, or write to FAMC. And there's a list of areas that we are currently actively focusing on, and we definitely need help in the various subgroups of Auroville.
Very good. I think there's a follow-up question from the same viewer. How can we spread this message far and wide so that people from different parts of the world could identify their skills versus the work before coming to join?
Yeah, I think the way to address this also, like through the webinar, do you have access to these people as contact emails? No? Okay. So then I would say probably send out a follow-up email to all these people who have registered, saying that FAMC invites people to contribute, but we can also come up with a certain kind of message saying these are the specific areas in which we are looking for contribution. And it need not be people who are specifically in Auroville. It can be anyone from all over the world. And I'm sure we can come up with specific details of the skills that we are looking for.
Sure, I'll come back to you, and
Yes.
Auroville Media Interface to be one of the
Yeah.
source to spread the message
Correct.
far and
Yeah.
wide, and
That's
invite
good.
people based on their skills to join Auroville.
Sure.
Next question. One thing I would like to highlight is the need for professional education for young people. I heard incubation for youth, support startups, make them efficient, as said here in the IT sector. But in my consideration, the thing a young person needs most is a profound and wide range professional education. Only then they will be able to properly gesture a unit as a manager or as an executive. You would like to comment on this?
I can do that. I think our human resource team, which is being created now, has a lot of focus that we need to put in education as part of this. I said before that everybody who's willing to work, they should come forward, because I think the willingness to work and be engaged and be responsible is much more important, maybe, that you have very specific skills. I think to a certain degree, we have to look for a solution to educate people, and put in a specific education is needed. And I think we should be able to do that, because we also have the capacity in Auroville to do some of these education things. So yes, I'm sure to turn them into be a manager, I think that is a bit of a step, but one solution could be that if you had a kind of mentoring system that you followed executive for 1 or 2 years, then it might be a way to do that. And then followed up maybe with specific education in certain fields.
If I may add to this, the way I look at it, I've been engaged in Auroville for 16 years. And right now what we're looking at is a few various areas of growing talent, but also bringing productivity at a grassroots level. We are looking at productivity training at the office level. So basically people need to be able to communicate, but also use online tools, use productivity tools so that the work becomes efficient. We also have program with AIT for a vocational training undergraduate degree that Love Kamad and Sanjeev are doing. So that will help in terms of skill set that are required for vocational training. Now, the way I see it in Auroville context is we have a lot of people also from the bio region. And actually what I've noticed is they are very smart actually. Now, once they start working, naturally there are some people who come up with the skill set to become, leaders and managers of themselves. So it's how, not necessarily you have to have management training and all that, but I believe if all the executives today who have been here from a long time should start looking at how to bring about younger talent so that they can transition to new stuff, right? And that's my focus all the time, how I can replace myself from what I'm doing. Right, so that next generation, succession planning is something that we are constantly right now really also need to focus and are trying to see how to do it. So these are all the challenges also of Auroville, but because people just continue to, again, as was observed before, a lot of people came here not necessarily to do commerce or unit, and they feel, oh, it is not good. That was also one of the culture in Auroville. But if we look at it from perspective of karma yoga, as the chairman was saying, that changes the modality. So the youngsters have to be proud. Look, you're doing this for, of course, there's a component of excitement, component of learning, component of engagement. So that nurturing and all that can only happen when adults themselves look at how this whole setup has to be changed rather than just a job, or that, it's my unit, no, I have to sustain from it, and all that changes to how I can grow and how I can, grow this service, or make that more people come in, they become successful in terms of affording, providing the service. So that whole culture has to change slowly. And maybe some units like Flourish, who's like into training of startups, growth. So they are focusing on growth. So that also we will see how those which are successful, they can grow into bigger units. And some places where this unit executives in from a long time to see how we can now transition. So this culture has to slowly start being brought in. But that is, in a way, today is still organic. I don't know if we can even have resources to focus on changing that, but we have some human resource experts who started to join in our human resource team, and maybe they can slowly look at what structures we can bring in. But actively, FAMC is not really looked at it so far, but we understand the need for a more formal way to address it.
Yeah, as a follow-up question, but from another viewer, what is the next step to grow Auroville units, since you are speaking?
Okay, maybe I can try to answer that. I think there are many things that has to happen, because to grow a unit is a bit of a complex process, because many things have to be available at the same time. I think we for sure need a kind of group that takes care of acceleration. That means that units can get support in all specific fields in each their step of their growth. We have to look at access to capital. We have to look that units should support each other much better. There should be more collaboration between units who has a knowledge. Why can't they help a unit who don't have that knowledge? Why does each unit has to go through the same failures? I think we should be much more collaborative, and we will try to put up a group that can work on that. That units should be collaborating about marketing. They should be collaborating about web sale. They should be collaborating about transport. For example, now I think we have at least 5 different transport companies crisscrossing Auroville. Why don't we make one contract with one of them, get the price down, and then avoid 80% of the trucks that goes half empty through Auroville? So there are many things that could be done. We have to learn to work much more together, because there's a lot of low-hanging fruits in that. Let's see, there's many things we should do. So please come forward, everybody who has a wish to work for this.
Okay, the next question, or you want to add to this one?
Next.
Okay, so next question, is there a central repository of research that has been done till date at Auroville, especially looking it in the light of Modest Charter and a desire to keep research open source?
So I would say, like, there is this platform called research.auroville.org. I would say this is not a complete platform containing all the researches that has been done, but it still provides a way to look at the partially captured data. And I also feel that within Auroville, like the kind of effort that has gone into documenting the various researches that has been done is also very low. And also people in the open source community normally call this as like scratch your own itch. Basically, each person is doing something that is interesting for them, or that is inspiring for them, and just stops at that point. It's not probably like documented enough for inviting more people. And only I know for sure there are various researchers who are constantly visiting Auroville for various purposes. One such as, like, for example, a circular economy thing. A PhD scholar is right now in Auroville looking into this. And I have seen also various other people coming to Auroville do researches in Auroville. In the light of that, I would say this questionnaire could also be contributing to this part of Auroville, where he can help us work with a unit called Sangili, which is again part of the HRT team that Torkil was talking about. Because this is the team that I see is actively working on bringing people, connecting people from outside Auroville to activities and services in Auroville, and making them engaged in the activities of Auroville. So in that sense, like, if this questionnaire, if he has time and energy to work towards this, since he also mentions about open source and about Mother, I'm also quite keen to see if he can help build up this system in Auroville, so that it is more visibly available for more and more people like him to come and contribute. So if Auroville Media Interface can also touch base with him and also see what he can contribute towards this, that's more very welcome from FAMC side.
Very good. One last question. US, I guess USA, have their training workshop for businessmen, executive artists, and drivers, etc. Do we have considered to have a special centers for learning who likes to update themselves to progress? Yeah.
So in today's world, one of the projects we had done was to provide communication at premises all across Auroville residences, units, services, schools, and our governance, working groups everywhere. So this whole training today has gone online actually. To have a center for training where you bring people and then you disseminate information, that probably will not be something that we will look into as a community, because there are a lot of online training workshops. Now we could have specific training workshop for what Auroville needs, because it's more on that line. For individual progress and all that, there's enough things online actually, even free workshops, right? So I think that facility is there. But in order to promote it as a center in Auroville, I don't know yet. Maybe some person who wants to offer it from even outside, and we can do it. Right? Today, online workshops are very much possible. And so these are all things probably done best online. Yeah, no, I'm done. I mean, that I wanted to say this, training is now become very much online and individual based, but something needed can be,
Okay, so Vishal said, okay, I will help.
Okay, that's good. Great.
I guess he knows how to contact you. Otherwise, anyway, you can contact through Auroville Media Interface. There's a last
I know a
question.
few Vishals in Auroville, but I don't know which Vishal is this, but hoping he will contact me.
Yeah, we'll find a way to contact us, but you can come through us also. So one last question. After 54 years of Auroville existence, it is proved that the economic structure is weak and dependent on donation, private funds, government grants, and cheap labor from the surrounding villages. All three pillars are not strong enough to enable Auroville to grow in reasonable time to its intended size. What are you going to improve the economic structure?
Okay, yes, I agree that it's a good question. I think there's no other way than to actually grow our economy. I don't think an Auroville should be a society based on donation. Donation for investment is okay, but donation for our survival here, I don't think it's a good idea. It's no community based on that kind of support. It has its own complexities. So I know it's not easy, but I think we have to grow our own economy. And as I said earlier, that we have a huge amount of resources already there from land and buildings that are not used and other assets. So if we can get some more people in, some new energy, some new ideas, and then put it all together in a more efficient way, I think we could actually grow this economy relatively fast. So that's my most belief and my best hope.
So some of the things that we are looking at to make this transition, one is transparency, as Shankar was saying. The more we enable people who are working already in units to see that, all the transaction, the productivity, the products or services are very timely accounted, so that at the end of the year, there is no creative accounting. Okay. I mean, maybe this doesn't sound good, but all those things we have to change so that wherever people are interested to work, they will be every month, there will be much more, feedback on the resources. So see, saving money is gaining money. Okay. And the more we allow other people to see that, the better ways to spend time, and also strengthen their needs by looking at the key champions and see how we can further their ability to scale. Now, that was what we had talked in our presentation, whereby, we take a few good, the ones which have a lot of potential because they are, economy model or the product or service is very, it's shown to be possible to grow. We can work with them and see how to help them grow. We can also look at some joint ventures whereby We can bring in revenue from other partners through distribution models. We can also look into, say, if there are research centers, incubation centers, which have ideation, they come up with new product ideas, they can be distributed through royalty or some industrial collaboration whereby, supposing, let's say, an electric cycle, like 2008, we did some electric cycles. And that was ahead of its time. Okay, batteries were not there, but if we have, Humvee is a good model of a frame. If we give that to an industrial, or maybe go to a post office, say they can use it for their rural areas, right? We have 3 lakh, 1.5 lakh postal services in rural areas. You give them 3 lakh vehicles, then industrialists will come and make those days. We're thinking of doing this, right? All we need is 3,000 electric bicycles that time, right? So thing is, we have to see what we can scale, which is our own unique Auroville brand, and work with some industrialists who will take that idea and scale it across India. We should not have to depend on Auroville to scale Auroville. We have to start looking at knowledge economy. We have to start looking at talent, but people who believe in Auroville's ideas, and then see how we can enable these people so that our growth comes from the whole India, world, wherever, right? I mean, in terms of training also, I actually created last year a platform for online training courses that we can offer from Auroville, from anybody. And it's an open, it's called gurukul.com. Anybody wants to offer course can do it, right? And it will generate revenue for us. So we have to start coming up with models that will trickle economy. We are also looking at, this data mining, services, something that, you put up servers. Right, we have got this Bitcoin. Today, Bitcoin is a nonsense thing. But if you have there are good coins outside. I mean, legal structured alternative digital currency. You put harvesting systems here. It will just keep generating whenever it gets adopted. What I'm saying, we have to start thinking outside of the box. What is the economy of Auroville? In the new knowledge economy, we have to think outside the box. Bring in young people who will, take it to next level. I'm very old in this system, but I think we need to get young people who are, fired up from, abroad and different countries and bring them in. Anybody else wants to add?
Yes, if you have a final comment before we close the session, now is the time.
Do we get all these questions that are asked in this?
Yes,
chat?
we can. I'll forward it to you.
Yeah.
We get. Maybe I can add one thing. Is
sure.
The unit I'm part of, which is a furniture unit, we have just been proposed to take a work of 10 to 20 crore over the next 4 years. So there's a lot of work that is lying. So it's not a matter of, it's just to get your act together and actually go out and ask for it. If you can deliver good quality in India, you can get as much work as you want.
Yeah,
so
in fact,
there's a big need for people who can do good things. And then Auroville has a lot of capacity. We have a lot of people who know about quality. So it should be that difficult. Let's try to get our act together and get going. The wheels of the Indian economy is actually running very fast. It will probably be one of the fastest growing countries in the world in the years to come. So let's just get 1% of 1% of 1% of that growth, and then our economy will work.
I want Kalia to also add to this because he's also an entrepreneur. He's got a very, very successful business also. No? So you can share something on how to grow economy and.
Then I'm happy with what you said.
Okay.
Thank you for everybody who had patience to listen to economy so long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that the people even hang out. How many people are there?
There are still quite some people there.
Okay.
But I suggest then we close it here. It's not working.
Thank you everybody for the patience.
Yeah, so I would like to thank our panelists, Ocean who came, Kalia, Shankardevy, Chandresh, and Torkil, and to thank also Rade and Vladimir, who are in the US helping us with the technical support. You have all heard that the invitation is open to come and collaborate and participate to Auroville. It's economy, but all its aspect also. And we'll just take a short moment of silence to invoke Mother and Shankardevy and to thank them in our journey. And then we'll close this webinar, who will be made available on our social media page and YouTube channel, Auroville Media Interface, in the coming days. And thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.